This is Loudspeaker.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to ColoRadio Spotlight. I am Chris Lanfear. In 2019, our guest today, Sarah Christine, was comfortable. She'd been with the same employer for 13 years and had been making music as a side hustle, releasing albums in 2017 and 2018, respectively, with a nationwide tour set up to happen in 2020. As we all know, 2020 and the coronavirus had other plans for so many of us, including Sarah. The cushy office job became a bit of a nightmare. She was faced with the prospect of either choosing to quit or staying and having to fire large numbers of her staff. Her planned Let Go tour was postponed as the virus raged across the US and the world. So who knew how things would line up? Facing an uncertain future, the safe choice would have been to keep her job and hunker down. Instead, Sarah Christine bet on herself and left the company so she could focus full-time on music. Sarah has a new single called Vices, a duet with Boulder's Taylor Took, coming out tomorrow, February 12th. But you'll hear Vices first, exclusively, a little bit later on ColoRadio. Sarah Christine proves that by believing in yourself and not taking no for an answer, we are all capable of so much more than we think we are, and that we are truly in it together. Her DIY attitude, her spirit, and her soulful voice are some of the many reasons we selected Sarah Christine as our Artist of the Month for February. Sarah, welcome to ColoRadio. How are you doing?
What's up, Chris? Hey, guys. Man, I feel like I should pop some champagne after that intro. Holy, I love it.
Yeah,
I wish we were together.
I know. That's been the whole thing of the pandemic, right? Is like so many people you want to see and get together with and, you know, hug in reality, and just can't do it right now, and it's kind of awful. Speaking of that, like, you know, we all kind of have our stories about how the pandemic affected us and turned our lives upside down, but yours is kind of unique. Can you tell us a little bit about how the coronavirus affected you and how you've been spending your time since then?
Yeah, I mean, the coronavirus was definitely, you know, it's funny because when it first started, I was definitely one of the people that was like a little bit of a pessimist. I was like, okay, is this just like a media hype for like a 2-week like ordeal?
Yeah.
And I was, you know, here I was like so stoked to have, I had 52 shows nationwide that I had spent a lot of time setting up myself, that I was really, really looking forward to. Like, I got a van to do it. Like, I had the whole thing set, like just stoked, you know, to be like going after my dreams full time. And then, you know, the 2 weeks starts passing. And I remember a guy I was working with, he called me up and he was like, hey, so the first stop in the tour, you know, that you have set up is Boulder. And, you know, Boulder's happening, but it looks like Denver could be iffy. And then from Denver, we had like Seattle, then Portland. And then I was supposed to be in California for almost 9 weeks, then to hit the Midwest and then going out east. And he's like, okay, so let's see how Denver plays out. So then the next day we get a call, you know, Denver's out. And he's like, okay, keep the hope, you know. If Seattle calls, then we're in trouble, you know.
And the dominoes start falling,
minutes,
right?
Yeah. Then like 15 minutes, Seattle calls.
Oh,
Postpone.
no.
Portland, postpone. And then, you know, hotel cafe, postpone, you know, whatever. But I mean, like a lot of people I think could be like, and we all are, all of our, I think us musicians are all like bummed, of course, that like that continues to be the case. But I think like focusing on what we can control, you know, making good music, collaborating with good people, and then, you know, looking towards hopefully like the fall and like when we can get all of that back. And I think people are craving, you know, going to be craving music more than ever. And hopefully we have, you know, what would have been I think a hell of a freaking tour before, for an up and coming independent gal like me, hopefully will be tenfold come the fall. And that's what I'm hoping for. But in the meantime, I'm living in Aspen, Colorado right now. And we have a friend that she has a clinic here, and she received the grant for the COVID COVID-19 stuff in the Roaring Fork Valley. And so she's really been gracious and like, you know, having us help out with that. And so we're helping out with the community by helping out with COVID testing actually. While, you know, in the meantime, while doing music and stuff. So I feel really good about giving back in the time of like, you know, where everybody's struggling, people are sick, people are dying, there's bigger things than tours, and doing our part there, but then also focusing on keeping music my full-time gig, you know? So, long answer.
That's all right. I mean, we talked about it in the intro, but if you could kind of expand a little bit on, like, you were kind of set, right? At the beginning of the pandemic,
Yeah.
you had your job, you had all of that stuff going, and then all of that changed. Can you kind of take us through what happened there with the
Yeah, like,
the employment and
I think
you
like,
go ahead.
yeah, like, not, no, not, like, I would say like, you know, like 90% of us independent artists have to have a full-time job to afford to make music. It's expensive, you know? And so for a long time, I juggled a corporate career. I was, my last role was, I was a regional vice president for a Fortune 500 company, and then juggled music on top of that. And it was a blessing. It afforded me a, you know, the ability to do music too, I think, in the right way, like not a rushed way. And I think there was two things, like, you know, throughout my whole career doing music, there was always like people saying, go for it, go for it, go for it. Why aren't you going for it? Like, you know, go for it. Because like we would have good turnouts, and we have all the things that like people would say go and jump for it. But like, to be honest, it just like never really felt in my soul like it was the right time. And I was really trying to like follow my intuition with that. And I also did love my corporate job. Like, I did love the people I worked with, and I felt a sense of responsibility of like helping them carry on their career through hopefully like my leadership and you know, us as a team together. And then it was so weird. It was like, you know, COVID happened, and I had been working on this tour, and it was like prior to COVID, like, you know, several months before, all of these shows ended up lining up. And it was like, okay, now I can't do my corporate job, you know? So like, I've got to make a real decision here. Like, do I give up like this corporate fast track ladder and 6 figures and stability and all of this stuff I worked my ass off for to follow my dreams and for a shot and to maybe make nothing, you know? Or do I stay with what's just like, do I stay with what's comfortable? And that's okay for a lot of people that do that. But like, so I had that choice. And then at the same time, COVID hits, right? And it was like all of these different conversations started happening around corporate layoffs and reduction of staff and
Were you worried?
title changes. And no, I wasn't worried. It was more about like what would happen. Like, I think in corporate, you just always have to be like adaptable, you know, like, do I need to go back to Minnesota? Do I need to take on something else? Are they, you know, whatever, you know? But what hit me was when I started looking at like all of these conversations that I was having around like how many people we were going to have these discussions with. And, you know, long story short, I ended up having a discussion of my own where my boss was amazing. Karen Policastro, by the way, if you ever go into corporate, work for Robert Half and work for Karen Policastro. She's amazing. It's a tough job and it's a tough company because it's a grind, but she's a hell of a leader. And, you know, she talked with me and I said, like, Karen, you know, I want to do music full time. I've got all this lined up. COVID's happening. What if I say I'm going? And what could that do to hopefully help other people keep some of their jobs? And it was actually a really awesome moment and a weird, like, you would think it'd be like this, like, you know, we'd be so mad or whatever about what was happening, but we actually both cried to each other over the phone because we loved each other so much, you know. And she was just like, that's a hell of a move. And you know, the employees I worked with, like, they deserved it. And, you know, I felt like I deserved to go follow my dreams too. So it was like this defining moment. And the crazy thing is, if like you believe in God at all or not, or like like anything, like a higher power, it happened on like Good Friday for me. And like, so that was like a weird thing too, where I was like, finally my soul was like, it's time. And like, I knew, and I haven't looked back since. And everyone I worked with has been so supportive. Like, people have found new jobs, like the world is figuring itself out, and here we are. But yeah, so that was the whole corporate thing.
So
were you expecting a 4-hour interview?
So
I feel like I'm in a therapy session. Where's
right?
my wine?
Yeah. Sorry, our 50 minutes is up. We just, we have to go. But we'll see same time next week. So you're kind of staring into the abyss, right? Like, things are kind of weird. You're in this kind of awkward position, and you kind of say, you know what? Maybe this is the universe telling me that I just need to do this.
Right.
Which I find to be amazing, because my perspective, it's like we run this station, but we all have day jobs, like you said. We, as artists, we have to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my reaction to it was, I'm staying put. I'm not looking for anything else. I'm not even gonna try to. I'm just gonna kind of ride this wave, because that's where I was at.
Yeah.
But I mean, I hadn't been looking to move myself, but still, like, it's a
Right.
kind of contrast in outlooks, where you're kind of saying, like, I don't really know what's on the other side of this, but I want to go find out. And
Right. Well, yeah, and I think, like you said, like, you just have to be, like, you can't just, if you're like an independent artist right now, unless you're like the 1%, like you're like Beyonce or like Taylor Swift or like, like those guys, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you've got to have, like, what I found during this time, which has been really like educational, is that what I learned through business was that, like, you always have to diversify. And like, so if like you are just looking to, like, quote unquote, like, make it as a musician by writing music and like playing shows as like you said, DIY, like, that's really hard, right? Like, that's not happening right now,
Right.
And like, one thing that's really helping me is like this thing that I've been doing forever, which is like custom wedding songs and custom love songs and stuff, where I work privately with couples or friends or whoever, and learn about their story, and through their words, like, I tell them I'm like kind of like their funnel for like their ideas, and I just bring the song to life for their story. And I'm doing that, like, in my mind, that's like my side hustle right now, until like things keep up. But like you said, like, I mean, most people can't afford to do it right now. It's a really, really tough time, hence the song Vices coming out.
Right.
It's not a happy song.
Well, and so you decided to, I mean, you told corporate America to, like, stick it. I mean, you were polite, but you were like, I'm going to go do this. And then not only that, you made a song. You created this song called The Choice, which kind of celebrates that whole experience. Tell us about The Choice.
So The Choice was, I wrote it literally like a few days after I knew I was going to leave. And I just, like, it was like the beginning of what you were anticipating now to be like a really sad time. And like, I felt a responsibility to, whether or not that's taken the right way, right? I'm going to quit my job, is literally the theme of that song, right? Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of people that can't quit their job and say, yeah, during the pandemic. But I felt this sense of responsibility of, like, there needs to be someone that's creating an anthem for people to take risks. And if you did lose your job, or if you feel like quitting or whatever, like almost like let that, like, manifest that to empower you, versus like letting that, like, be this like doom over you, this like dark cloud,
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of sad music right now, and Vice is coming out is a sad song, sort of. But Choices was like a very, like, I wrote it on the piano as a ballad, and then I hit this beat, and I really, really liked the beat, and started creating, the song from that. And I really liked that upbeat momentum, because it was like, give people something positive right now, whether or not it's received well by some or not. Like, it's actually, for whatever reason, most of my songs, because I am up and coming, like, they get like 2, 3, 4,000 hits on Spotify or on Apple Music, whatever. The Choice in like 6 weeks got like, I think it's like 65,000.
Oh,
hits,
wow.
It was like,
so
yeah.
it struck a chord with people.
I didn't submit to any playlists. Like, I just put it out there, and it was like, for some reason, maybe that's what people needed to hear. I don't know. So.
And I think our audience needs to hear it. So we're going to listen to The Choice from Sarah Christine, and we'll come right back and talk some more. This is ColoRadio.
I saw the light, the sky was dark and I felt blinded. I sacrificed all I had. No time for crying, dreams don't chase themselves, they die if you don't go all in for them. So it's time for me to go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. 7 to 5, we are all trying to survive, but it's our time to take a stand. From right to wrong, morally I can't go on, and I gave it all up for them. So it's time for me to go. I'm gonna quit my job, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna quit my job, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna quit my job, yeah, yeah. I've been working for the man, now I got a different plan, yeah. I said, I'm out, goodbye. Tell me where you like me to sign. Hey, I'm gonna quit my job, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So tell me why, when we all don't know when we're dying, that I should wait to go for it. So it's time for me to go. I'm gonna quit my job, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna quit my job, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna quit my job, yeah. I was working for the man, but I got a different plan, yeah, yeah. I'm out, goodbye. Tell me where you like me to sign. Hey, I'm gonna quit my job, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You can quit, you can stay. It's your choice, they say. Choose the suit, take the pay. But I said, no way. I'm gonna quit my job, yeah, yeah. I was working for the man, but I got a different plan, yeah. I'm out, goodbye. Tell me where you like me to sign. Hey, I'm gonna quit my job, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was working for the man, now they had a different plan. You're out, goodbye. Here is where we like you to sign this. Fuck, I got laid off. You're fired. You're fired. Oh, yeah. You're fired. No, I quit. I'm gonna quit my job, yeah. I'm gonna quit my job, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna quit my job, yeah, yeah. I was working for the man, now I have a different plan. Yeah, I said, I'm out, goodbye. Tell me where you like me to sign. Hey, I'm gonna quit my job, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Welcome back to ColoRadio. I am here with our February Artist of the Month, Sarah Christine. That was The Choice, an anthem for positivity and for taking risks at a time when everybody's afraid to. So it's that's one thing I've noticed, like with your like career path and the choices that you've made, is like where a lot of people zig, you tend to zag, and that's really refreshing because a lot of people just play it safe. Did
Thank
you
you.
always want to be a musician? Like was that always in your blood?
Yeah, I mean, well, it always was. Like I always played, the piano and stuff. I never knew I shouldn't say like I can sing because I still think I'm working on that. But I didn't really find my voice until I was in college. But there was this one time when I knew, there was two times actually, two times when I knew it was what I wanted to do. One was like I had just been like really, really dabbling with like my own kind of like independent vibe without sharing it, by the way, super private at home. And I went to a concert with a friend at the Fine Line Cafe in Minneapolis, and I saw KT Tunstall play and Sarah Bareilles play. And there was, those moments where like you see these huge artists in like small spaces. There was like 20 people in this theater.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, close to the stage, and I was watching them play. And I just remember thinking, like, I could do that, like, I want to do that. Like, I can do that. Like, it wasn't like this huge, like, amped out theater. It was just like, I want to get up on a stage and play. And what was cool about that night was after Sarah was done playing, I was standing at the bar with friends that I was, playing college basketball with and stuff. And she came up and she was like, hey guys, like, what are you drinking? And I think we were just having like a glass of wine or something. And she was like, can I have a drink with you guys? And she just sat at the bar with us. Like, the girl who wrote The Waitress on Broadway. Are you kidding me? Like, it's crazy. And I had my ticket like sticking out of my, like I was wearing like a flannel and it was like sticking out of my coat pocket thing. And she was like, I can sign that for you. And she just signs it, hangs out with us, and then as soon as her like manager came out for her to like move all of her gear off of the stage is like when she had to like leave. I still have that ticket. I have one from Adele too. I have both of those. Like those are two big ones for me. And then there was one moment where when I was in college and I first started like dabbling with the guitar, my best friend from 4th grade came up and visited me. And under my dorm bed, she saw a guitar head sticking out. And she was like, oh my God, Sarah, do you play guitar? And, I was like, I'm just learning, And she's like, get that shit out and play for me, whatever. And so makes me get it out. And she's like, please don't tell me you can sing too. Like, she's like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, I don't think I can sing, but she's like, play something, So
She's like, how cool are you? It's fine. I'll wait.
No, she was, because I'm a huge nerd. So she's just like, so she's like, oh my God. Like, okay, so we had that moment. Well, my 5 best girlfriends since 4th grade, we go on like a girls' trip almost every year. Not with this whole COVID thing, but
Right.
We all went to Breckenridge, Colorado, which made me fall in love with Colorado. And we hiked all day. We went to this wine bar at night. And there was this guy playing a 4-hour set. And as you know, Chris, like a 4-hour set is like forever long.
Yeah,
like,
good God.
Poor guy, right? Like you need a lot of water.
Well, in most concerts these days, you're lucky if you get more than an hour,
Yeah, and honestly, you kind of don't really want more than an hour. You're like, I'm good.
In a lot of cases, yeah.
Yeah. So he had these like interims where he would like stop playing and, anyways, Mel, my best friend, goes up to the bar manager. Here I am with my other girlfriends at the table. And she's like, you see that girl over there? And, he's like, yeah. And she's like, she can sing. Like, do you want somebody to cover the interim? So the guy's like, well, let's go talk to the musician. And most musicians would be like, nah, I'm good.
Right,
like,
yeah.
He was awesome. Well, not for me at that moment because I had the worst stage fright in like ever. Like
oh,
ever.
No.
I wouldn't even play in front of my mom. Yeah.
Sure.
And next thing I know, I have the manager from the bar calling my name up over like the loudspeaker. And the musician at the time, I wish I would have gotten his name. Like, it was just such a weird, like, exchange of everything, of how fast it all moved in my mind. But he hands me his guitar. The bar, I remember, it was just loud. Like, it was loud. And like, I took the guitar, and I remember being like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, like blacking out, like bad stage fright, like the worst. What am I gonna play? And I played the one song I had ever written, just one song, and the whole place went quiet. I'll never forget it. Like, you could hear a pin drop.
Oh, wow.
And it was this defining moment, like, of like, this is it. Like, I need to do this, you know? So then what happened from there, and then I'll be done with this long ass story, but I kept going, and then it was time for him to come back on. And he was so awesome. Like, so I give him his guitar back, and he gives me this like hug, and he hands me the guitar back, and he goes, "Why don't you close out the night?" And I
No
ended up
way.
playing for like an hour. Yeah.
Wow.
It was so cool. The place is shut down in Breckenridge now. It's some like gift shop or whatever now, but it literally gave me the confidence to like play in front of people, and that's where it all started. So
That is such a
yeah.
cool story. And yeah, I mean, for a lot of musicians, it'd be like, hey, can I play on your stage? They'd be like, well, screw you, kid, like, get out of here. But, like that kind of selfless act to say, hey, you know what, get up there and show me what you can do. And then
Yeah.
afterwards, like, hey, why don't you take the floor? It's yours. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so you're in Aspen now.
Yeah.
So you moved from Denver to Aspen recently, and before that, you were born and raised in Minneapolis. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, in Stillwater, Minnesota, like grew up there, and then Minneapolis is where I call home. But yeah, I lived there for a long time. I've been in Colorado for like 4 or 5 years now, but Minneapolis is where my roots are at for sure. So
Right on. And it all started by a girl's trip to Breckenridge and falling in love with the mountains, and now you live in Aspen,
yeah.
that's got to be kind of mind blowing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. And like, we've talked a bunch, but like being in like this setting of like just gorgeous nature, just like where you're at in Fort Collins, like there's just like so much inspiration, and like you meet the coolest people, and like so many songs come from like just random conversations or people that you meet. And like they call Aspen Neverland for a reason. Like you meet like people from everywhere, like, and from all walks of life, and like it really is helping me to create a lot of new music that I hope you'll enjoy throughout the year. But it's a cool spot. Aspen's where it's at.
Well, it's got to be, right? Because you released a single in 2019 called Aspen. Tell us about that track, because it's one of my favorites.
Well, that track was before I moved to Aspen. That was me swiping right on a girl named Heather Hendricks, who is the editor of Jackson Hole Snowboarder Mag. And she's awesome. I fell hard, and she's a huge snowboarder. So she lived up in Aspen. I was in Denver. We actually, when we met, we were just across. We had no idea, but we were like shared locations, and we were literally across the street from one another. So I think it might have been fate, sort of. But I started road tripping up to Aspen a lot. Yeah, I mean, you know how it is when you're crushing on somebody hard. You're like, you can't get enough,
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm not kidding you. I used to leave, like, on Sundays, I used to leave at 3:30 in the morning and drive down to Denver to be back at work by 7:30.
I was gonna say,
That's
like,
how whipped I was. I still am. She's in the background, so I should say still am. Right, Heather?
I mean, you have to be crushing hard, because Denver to Aspen is not a short trip. That's a
No,
3-4 hour
especially-
drive.
Yeah. So, I guess you could say I was whipped, and I wrote a love song about Aspen, sort of. But it's been cool. It got from the Troubadour's Road, which is an awesome music publication. It got number 10 out of the top 25 songs in 2025 from a writer I really respect who values independent music just as much as, you know, you would value somebody who has won 20 Grammys. And so that was a really, really cool thing to be like on that same list of like Ray LaMontagne or, you know, who else, you know. So that was really, really cool.
So awesome. So let's give it a listen. This is Aspen by Sarah Christine. You're listening to ColoRadio.
Trip through the Aspen.
Welcome back to Color Radio. I am here with our featured artist for February of 2021, Miss Sarah Christine. And you just heard Aspen, which is a fantastic song. It's actually the first song I heard of yours when we were, researching people to join our Hollowstream event last year. I heard Aspen and I was like, we have to get her because this is going to be fun. Cool. You mentioned that, one of the reasons or the reason you were kind of commuting between Denver and Aspen before you lived there was, you were crushing on Heather. What does it mean to be an LGBTQIA artist right now in a time when American culture is so divided politically and socially, and how does that reflect in your music?
I mean, I'm really proud of it. I think like for the most part, people in general, whether they're like super straight or not, it's all a spectrum, and I think just, I think the point is just being proud of who you are, standing up for who you are. I mean, for me, it wasn't easy at all. Like it may come across like that, maybe like on my like social media or stuff like that. That's just where I'm at right now. Like there were times where, I didn't hear from really important people in my life for years, and, like had to really work on those relationships and things like that. And I think the, like, being an LGBTQ artist, I think, how do I put this? I think we've come a long way. I think the world's come a long way. But I think in music, and I think in, corporate America, I think in politics, I mean, I think what you saw with everything with Black Lives Matter, I think the most important thing is that equality is and should be the number one focus for not only the United States, but the world. And so, like, I struggled with it for a long time. Like, do I put myself out there as like somebody who, likes women, has liked men, can like men? Like, I mean, we're all fluid, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and do you put yourself out there as somebody that can be judged for that? And you start to think about like the opportunity cost, but then you start to think about like, it's just so important to do so because there's so many like kids and people that are looking up to you and people that are 70 years old and still haven't come out yet or whatever, that like you are a platform for that. And also like, as I hope like listeners get to know me better, like faith is really important to me too. Like my mom's a youth pastor. My parents run an orphanage in Honduras. Like, oh wow. And so I also feel like I'm always open to like that conversation too about like, how does that cross over, right? Like the people think that can't or whatever. And like, so music's been a really cool platform for me to be able to just be myself, find my true self, authentic self, and hopefully like be somebody that like, I don't know, like can shed a little light into it for people that don't understand, so.
Very, very cool. And many like going on to like expectations and kind of, what people expect of you. Many female singer-songwriters have a diminutive appearance, right? They're like small people. You don't. You have this imposing physical presence. I mean, you are 6'2". When you're performing, you often have a line of makeup under your eye similar to what you see football players wearing. And yet your singing voice, it's light and it's airy and it's breathy. It's a powerful sound, but it's not what I expected to hear when I first heard you sing. That makes you really tough to classify. So my question is
that a good thing?
I mean, you tell me. My question is, do you kind of enjoy playing with and sort of subverting what people expect of you?
Yeah, I mean, I do. A fun fact is I'm a natural blonde. So my dark hair was a fun move. No, I think, there's like, in terms of like branding, I guess, like kind of what I'm going for is kind of like, and it's a weird thing. It's like approachable badass, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, like doing like I really do take life every day as like it might be my last day, and so like I try to do like cool stuff and like try to put myself out there or whatever, and with music too, like, but also then like with like live performances and things like that, like I think sometimes I would encourage people, like, if you don't know me and you haven't come to a show, please do, because like it is a very, like, even if it's 1,000, 2,000 people, it's a very intimate experience, and like very, I hope you would find approachable and very vulnerable. I've actually been coached a little bit in the past to like not share so much about like what my songs are about during a show, because it makes me come across as quote unquote too soft. And I
Interesting.
disagree with that. Like, yeah, I disagree with that, because I think it really pulls people into the music, and it also creates a relationship. And I really, really value that. Like, I seriously, like, even in big shows, like, I will look through the ticket list. Like, I know who comes, and like, so I guess like answering your question, like badass, vulnerable, that's kind of what I'm going for, like approachable. Like this kind of like when you walk in a room, people notice, type of thing. But also when you walk in a room and sit down and have a glass of wine with them, they want you to stay all night.
Yeah, they're not like
know?
scared of you. Like, oh shit, this person's
Yeah, they're
this
like, holy
person's
shit,
too
this girl's,
intense.
yeah, cool. Like, let's order a pizza.
Well, like when you and I met for the first time, like we had emailed a bunch, but like there was, you didn't know me from Adam, and you like ran up, gave me a hug. You're like, hey, how's it going? What's going
Yeah.
on? Because at first I was like, I'm kind of scared of this chick, but. Because you never know what to expect, and then you get out of your like your tour van, and you're like 9 feet tall, and I'm like, holy shit, okay.
Well, my joke. It's all the same laying down.
Right? Absolutely it is. We're all the same height in certain ways. But yeah, I get the approachable badass thing, because it's like, holy shit, this person is rad, but I'm not afraid to go up to him and say hi, how are you, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I think there's
Yeah,
power
like one thing,
in. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, like, one thing I think people are surprised at is like a lot of times after shows, like, you mentioned the van, like we open it up, and it's like, hey, come hang out. And people are just like, wait, what? Like, and it is like one of my most like I enjoy that so much, like, because it's almost like inviting people into your home, and it makes you like not this like person that's on stage. All of a sudden it's like we're friends, and like that's really what I'm trying to do, is like build this community of like seriously like truly friendships that like hopefully multiply, and then hopefully we all fast forward in 5 years, we've got basically like what would you call it, like a class reunion at Red Rocks or something.
Hell yeah. Well, and I think too that goes back to kind of choosing to share that vulnerability and making it not coming from a place of weakness, but coming from a place of owning it, saying like, I am sharing myself with you, and I am putting myself out there, and I kind of expect the same in kind, and if that's a vibe that you dig, then we're going to get along really well. It's a really refreshing thing, because there aren't a whole lot of musicians who are known for their modesty. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
And it's an incredibly refreshing thing to deal with. As someone who's worked with a lot of talent in the past, and some people are very much like, I asked for no green M&Ms or whatever that thing is. So it's very, very cool to deal with. When you performed for our Halloween show last year, you played a song that I hadn't actually heard before that. It was Like the Movies. And that song comes from your 2018 album, Breaking Silence. You played this during the live set, and I have to admit, I don't think I told you this, but I was tearing up listening to that song. And I was also running a camera and running sound. So I was trying so hard not to let on that it was getting to me. But it struck such an emotional core for me, because it brought me back to a relationship from my past that could very much be described by that song, to the point where I kind of felt like it was about the relationship, even though we didn't know each other well. You knew nothing about that, but it kind of seeped into me that way. And how did that song come about? Because it's such an emotional song, and it comes from such a place of vulnerability. Tell me a little bit more about how that came about.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm sorry you went through that too. Like, breakups suck. Like, it just sucks. But it's like, what do you do with it? What do you pull out of what you learn from stuff like that? And for me, it was a song, But the reason for the song and how it was written and everything, it's I was married before for a very short time, and I fell in love very, very fast. Like, it was like one of those things where, like, your parents go like, "Are you sure?" Like, it's like really fast,
Yeah.
And so we there was just like this infinity that we had for each other. And I don't want to talk poorly, because honestly, like, the good parts of that were some of the best memories of my life,
Yeah.
my wedding, everything. Unfortunately, it didn't end well. And things, like, I guess I could bring up, like, I was going to therapy through some of this, and my therapist goes, "All right, Sarah, you've got 8 out of 10 buckets that are empty." And she goes, "For every one bucket, it takes about a year for that to recover. And that's if it works. So do you have 8 years to try to hope that this works out?" And, and that put a lot of things into perspective for me. And through that process of, like, separation and figuring that out, I lost everything. I lost, unfortunately, I through the divorce and everything, and even prior to that, I lost all of my money. The person I was with, it was just a tough go. Took a lot of what I had up to Canada, and I had to figure it out pretty quick. It's a really hard thing when you've always been in a stable corporate job where you've got your life figured out, and you've got the relationship, and then all of a sudden you look one day, and not only do you have nothing in your bank account, you don't have a bank account, and your mortgage is due in like 3 days. Like, you literally are like, okay, how do I do this? Anyways, it all ended up being okay. So if you're going through that, I feel for you. It will get better. Anyway, I same best friend, Mel. I call her up and I told her, kind of where things were at. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know what to do. Like, for the first time in my life, I felt completely alone and totally lost. And she goes, "Sarah, the only thing I can tell you is this is like the movies," like the stuff that I had told her that had been happening.
Yeah.
And in that one sentence, this song was born in my head. And it was like, whether or not people were going through like that tough of a breakup like I was working through, or maybe they were like, they're super in love and it's like this amazing experience. Like, when you think about like a movie, a romantic movie, it's like it either starts with love and ends with heartache. It starts with like the best friend or something, or like the enemy that turns into love, or it's like love that turns even greater, or whatever. But it's all like the movies, And so that's where that came from. And then I also just, I think for me, like with the way I grew up, like divorce was like, it was like the worst word in the world. It was like worse than saying like the F word 40 times,
Yeah.
And so I felt a lot of guilt around that. But then the lyric is, one of the lyrics is, sometimes you have to bail, and putting yourself first and your values first and like what is right first shouldn't always be what's wrong because of what, you know, you decided to do at one point. And so that's where that part came from. And so kind of like the choice, it's meant to be kind of like this like somber-ish song about relationships, but it's also meant to be like empowering around like if you're going through a tough time and you need to bail, like sometimes you have to bail, you know? And so that's where that came from. It's actually my favorite song that I think I've ever written. So I'm glad you like it.
Mine too. It's absolutely my favorite. But it's also, because of that kind of like deep emotional resonance, it can also be difficult to listen to for me personally.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful song.
Yeah.
Let's listen to it now. This is Like the Movies by Sarah Christine.
I didn't live, I didn't know it, but I just knew this wasn't right anymore. How did you miss it? How did we fall? I thought I was black and white, but I don't know. We were like the movies. We fell so hard. We were like the movies, 'cause we fell apart. We all wanna be happy ever after. We all want a fairy tale. We all want it to work out, to falsify their doubts. But sometimes we have to bail. We all wanna be happy ever after. We all wanna I'm getting older, but I don't mind. 'Cause as I get older, I'm learning a peaceful mind. And I'm in my 30s. For once I've no worries. I took a chance on you and I have no regrets. Like the movies, we fell so hard. We were like the movies, 'cause we fell apart. We all wanna be happy ever after. We all want a fairy tale. We all want it to work out, to falsify their doubts. But sometimes we have to bail. We all wanna be happy sometimes we have to bear. Yes, sometimes we have to bear. We all wanna be happy, ever after. We all wanna.
Welcome back to ColoRadio. We are here with Sarah Christine, our featured artist of the month for February. You write custom love songs for weddings. Tell me more about kind of where that came from and how you came to be doing that.
Yeah, I love doing them. They're so fun. So if you want like the best Valentine's Day gift or like a surprise for somebody or want to write something together, like hit me up. It's so much fun, and we become like super homies. So just a heads up. But it started with two friends of mine. Where they didn't have music for their wedding, and they were like, "Hey, can you write a song about us?" And so I called each one of them separately, and kind of got their love story from each other, and wrote their song and played at their wedding, and it was this crazy moment where when I was done playing, the entire it was a big wedding, like a couple hundred people, and there was like a standing ovation. It was so like crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just fun. It was their story. They were both in tears, just absolutely bawling. I felt so bad for my friend because her makeup was amazing, and she definitely was
no.
like the sobbing cry. Yeah. And since then, it kind of became like word of mouth. And what I ended up like turning it into was and there's a number of ways that we can do it, but like a bunch of different questions that are tailored specifically to each couple based off of what I learned. And we work through all of those questions, and I only write the song off of their words. Like I literally don't use words of mine. Like I take it off of all of the things that they give me, and then I build them a song. And then, we copyright it, we mix and master it, it's radio ready. It's a professional song, and they get it forever. And the whole point is that like people's love stories should live on forever, and life's too short. And I think a song does live on forever. You're still listening to, everybody from, 60, 70, 80, however many years ago.
Yeah, once you put it out into the world, it's there forever. It's there,
Yeah.
like one of the things I love about doing, radio and the podcasting stuff is this stuff will be around long after I'm gone.
Forever.
And
Yeah.
and there's something that's just really, really cool and freeing and meaningful about that. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah, so yeah, it's awesome. So yeah, I've been doing those on the side, and it's been I take on like 5 clients a month for that, and it's awesome. I have a blast doing it. So.
That is a lot of songwriting. That's a lot. That's very impressive.
There's a lot of couples in the world.
That is true. That is true. But like, what better gift for a couple than a song that will last forever? That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
So
it's like they say, like if you date a songwriter, you'll always last forever, right?
yeah, you'll be memorialized in either a wonderful way or a horrible way, but you'll be memorialized nonetheless, and that's what matters. It's like the Carly Simon song, and that'll be around forever.
Yeah.
So your new track, Vices, is coming out tomorrow. We're going to hear it in just a minute. You've written that Vices is an honest portrayal of the ways many are coping during these difficult times. Tell us more about kind of where that came from.
Yeah. Well, I think pandemic fatigue, I know I certainly have felt it, has hit everyone.
Definitely.
And yeah, and I think, I had this conversation with 2 really, really good guy friends of mine. Kind of like, to be honest, it was almost like a year ago. This is where this like whole concept came from, which was like we were all kind of working through different things. This was before I had like quit my job, and with music and everything, like I was getting I mean, I was lucky to get like 3 hours of sleep, maybe 4 a night. And so I was running on like total exhaustion. So some of the lyrics is like, my mind's always running and I don't know how to wind down. Some of that is about like really what I was, I mean, I was literally like not myself, like, you know. And then my other friend, he was, he's kind of like the life of the party, and he was having a really hard time just like saying no. And so he was going out all the time. And he was like, dude, I'm drinking too much. And that was the hook in my head right away. Like, you know, they say I'm drinking too much. You know that. Like that was from him. And then
And those are the first words you hear in the song.
He's really, yeah, my other friend, he's really good looking, and long story short, he was just sleeping around a lot. And so so those three things, like I started writing this song like almost a year ago, and then the pandemic hit, and you know, you started looking at like, how are people coping, including myself. Like,
sure.
Like I look at myself and it's like, this isn't just about like the conversation. Like this is about like, if I look at myself included, most people I know, like, we're probably having too much wine. We're probably hooking up too much. Or if you're not, you're probably like hoping you were, or like,
right.
Or, you know, you have a lot of anxiety or stress and you're not sleeping, or like, why do you think mental illness is like at an all-time high, you know? And it's like, and I really felt called, for this series that will be coming out all through 2021 called The Year, that Vices should be the first song, because people are coming out of a lot of unrest, and a lot of like personal shit that they don't want to talk about. And I think that that's a big problem, because it's like, we cannot be better if we don't put how we're actually all dealing with this shit at the forefront. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like putting it out there, and like get rid of your ego. Like just be like, yeah, dude, like I'm partying too much, or like I'm getting around too much, or like I need to slow down. Like, and that's what Vices was about. And then, so we put all that together, and then I'll be done telling you about this, but I played at the Broadway Roxy in Denver for a show with my friend Pedro and with my friend Taylor Took. And it was my first time meeting Taylor. And he opened, and when I heard his voice, like immediately I was just like, oh my God, like this is who I have been like looking for. And then during sound check, we were sound checking, and the sound guy goes, you know, he's testing my vocals, and he's like, all right, he's like, what do you want to sound like? And I was like, give me the Ellie Goulding reverb. And Taylor starts laughing, and Taylor's like, I think I'm in love, you know, or whatever. And so Taylor and I, never meeting before, met that night, and bringing up the van again, we chatted in the van after the show. And I was like, dude, I have this song called Vices. It was supposed to be a solo performance, but I think we should do it as a duet. Are you in? And right away he was like, I'm down. And we got in the studio together a couple weeks later, and I learned so much from that guy. He's so awesome. And Vices was born. So we're stoked for it to come out tomorrow. 2/12/21 we feel like is a lucky number, so we'll see where it goes.
Absolutely. That's a hell of a palindrome.
Yeah.
So before we get to the song, where can people find you? How can people connect with you? Plug all of your things.
Yeah, I mean, on socials, guys, like hit me up anytime. It's at Sarah Christine MPLS, like Minneapolis Music. So Sarah Christine MPLS Music. My website is just sarahchristinemPLS.com. And then I'm on all things streaming. There's a few other Sarah Christines out there, so just like, search like Sarah Christine The Choice or Vices or whatever, you'll find me. But for real, hit me up. Like, I'm looking forward to getting to know you and DMing you back, and let's be homies, yo. So.
And we'll have links to those in the show notes for this episode as well, so you can connect with Sarah and learn more about her and stream her music. But without further ado, this is Vices. Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. And everybody, listen to Vices, stream it starting tomorrow. You're, of course, getting a sneak peek here. And then listen to Sarah Christine all month long on our loudspeaker radio stream at loudspeaker.fm. Thanks again so much, Sarah. It was wonderful to chat with you and catch up, and can't wait to see what you do in this year.
Thanks, Chris. And be looking at the studio address. I swear it has a surprise coming to you this evening. So
awesome.
When somebody knocks, open.
Can do. All right. This is Vices. Right. You've been listening to ColoRadio. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.
They say I'm drinking too much. They say I'm sleeping too little, and I don't know what's down from up. They say I need to slow down. My mind's always running, and I don't know how to wind down. I'm drinking too much. I think I like sleeping around to try to fill this void I don't know too much about. I think I could fall to the ground and let you have all of me. So for a minute, you take my frown. So tell me about a time you were surprised or embarrassed or some other kind. I'm drinking too much. And did you wake up lost, wanting to throw, wanting to give up, throwing the towel into dust? I'm drinking too much.
I think you've been sleeping around to try to fill that void you don't know too much about. Why do you fall to the ground when I just want all of you? So for a minute,
you take my frown. Take my frown. I think
I like sleeping around to try to fill this void I don't know too much about. I think I could fall to the ground
and let you have all of me. So for a minute, you take my frown. They say I'm drinking too much. You say I'm drinking too much. I think I'm drinking too much.
This is Loudspeaker.